Hey, welcome back to the Built Different podcast. I'm your host, Claudia, and I just wrapped up a really solid conversation with a good friend of mine, George Smith, founder of Smith Commercial out in South Florida. We talked about the real side of commercial real estate, the early grind, the cold calling, the pressure moments, and what it really takes to stay disciplined when deals fall apart or when things finally start working. George also shared his journey from hustling early, building his own brokerage, all while staying grounded in faith, family, and the belief that comfort is dangerous in this business. I really, really enjoyed this one, and I think you will too. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Let's get into it. All right, we got George Smith. Welcome to the Built Different podcast. And I always like to ask this to my guests beforehand. It's kind of catch them a little off guard here, but like, how are you doing? Like, really? Like, and what season are you in life right now?
A good question. That's a good opening question. Um, I'm doing good. I'm grateful. I'm grateful from where I'm at right now. Honestly, and that's a good question because a lot of people kind of just on the go, and you know what I mean. And I'm one to like pause, and I think it's
Mm,
important to pause, and just to be grateful. And I think that's a very big component that a lot of brokers and just people in general are missing is enjoy the process, right? And I'm grateful from where I'm at because I just like this past Saturday I was able to go to my daughter's piano recital, you know?
mm,
Oh.
that's big.
Yeah, it's awesome, just to see them grow from where they were at a couple years ago. And then they have the Christmas parties at in school. So I'm grateful that I'm able to do that, you know what I mean? And being present in each step of seeing them grow, and I think that for me that's huge, being able to be in a career or business to be able to do that. So I'm good, man. And my wife is, home, doing her thing, obviously helping me out as well. But I'm grateful that, I get to go home and she's there with the kids and, making a hot meal and, just living life, doing life together. So I'm
I love
grateful.
that.
Yeah.
I, l- I love what you said. Because there's different seasons, right? Like maybe when you first got started in brokerage, because brokerage, when you think of brokerage and you think of slowing down, like there, there's sometimes like it doesn't exist, or that's what we tell ourselves. But like, is that a muscle you built up, like, to get to that point? Because, I mean, there's ebbs and flows of your brokerage career, I'm sure, where things were go, 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 and, like, it's what it had to be, and your wife had to understand that, and then now you've built it where you have that, right? You have that opportunity to watch your kids' games. Maybe there was a point you couldn't. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, no, for sure. I'd say like probably like the first 2 years, it was, coming home, having dinner, and I'm on my phone, and it was something that I needed to get used to because I wasn't I'm a and I think obviously brokerage is you need a special type of character or person, and I think it's those people that are like hard on themselves kinda or like almost
Yeah.
like you don't need to be told what to do type of thing. Like you already know what you gotta do, you know what I mean? And it's just you against you. And I think the first few years for me was like, it's grind mode, it was just like tunnel vision. And I know that I had to grind it out because you know that the climb was tall, like the climb is tall. Like you don't even know when you first started, like how do these people even make this happen? Like how do you even like get this thing going? And everybody's saying the same thing. You're like, okay, so if I really have to like do it, I'm gonna have to really grind it out. Just tunnel vision, block everything out, and just go after it. And so yeah, I did have that when I first got married. She's like, put the phone away, kids are looking at you, or all that stuff. And it was just like, next deal. I'm going to sleep in bed. I'm like, okay, trade it, or back then it was like the real deal. Who bought, who sold, or always staying on top of the market. What's happening next? I had to be on top of the market. So yeah, that's kind of part of the process.
Yeah. No, it is. And I kind of want to definitely dive into that. But like first, like going a little bit back, and I know a little bit about what your life was before real estate or like how you got into even building your own brokerage. But like who was George before like commercial real estate, before Smith CRE? Like who was that guy?
That guy, George was George was a hustler, man. You know, George was always a hustler. Like anyone, I guess, like kind of growing up, everyone has a past, right? Here in Miami, growing up as a kid, getting involved with the wrong crowd and all that. That was kind of like part of kind of part of growing up. Not everyone goes through that, but I did. Yeah. And then fast forward to somebody rang the bell here.
Someone got a deal.
um, these guys are hungry. Uh, so part of that, obviously going through all that, I before getting into real estate, I was managing an anti-aging medical center. So my brother had a med spa, call it, and they, had all the firefighters, police officers, kind of getting the hormone therapy, testosterone therapy thing, and I was kind of going in there with the idea of franchising it. Um, Fast forward, we end up finding out my brother had a partner. His partner wasn't too loyal, where he was kind of stealing from him. And then we found out, and my brother wasn't a confrontational type of guy. And I'm the one telling him, like, hey, you gotta like either sue him, like get your part, like, and he just kind of literally like he's like, nah, don't worry about it. He just walked away. And I'm like stuck in the middle. I'm like, okay, I'm about to get married like in about 2 weeks. I'm counting on this thing to work so I can we can grow, and this whole vision. But prior to that, like in the mix of me working there, one of the friends of the family, which is Frank Trellis, he would get treated there. And he had approached my brother and said, hey, we're opening up a brokerage, my partner and I in Doral. They were industrial brokers, and we're looking for young talent, like young guys. And I don't know how I popped into his head. I guess he's known me since I was young. He's known me since I've always been a hustler, selling things and like, always the next thing. And he approached my brother and he's like, hey, would love, if you give me opportunities to ask George if he'd like to, for the opportunity. So for me, it was like an honor because I knew Frank was always banking, made a lot of money. He was a tenant rep broker, driving, nice bands, always, hooked up, living in Brickell. Um, so I didn't even know what commercial real estate was, honestly. And I looked it up and saw that they didn't make money for the first 2 years. And I was like, whoa. I was like, I don't know if I can make that happen, but here I am. I made the jump. Um, and fast forward, it's been a rough ride, but it's been definitely worthwhile for sure.
That's what they tell all of us, right? It's worth it. And
Yeah.
the 2 years, that's a real thing. I mean, I think you're not the first person I've heard that talk about getting into commercial brokerage. I read probably any brokerage, but commercial just because like time span of deals and all that stuff and like cultivating those relationships. But like people don't really like dig into that. Like they kind of skip to the good part. Like putting yourself on traded, right? Like you see the pictures of these brokers that close deals and it sounds all good, but like they don't see all the late night calls, being on your phone, like, driving hours to go see a client that maybe they won't, there's just all these things that come to that point where you see why people quit and you have like I think you were saying earlier, like you really have to have that mental, like it takes a very specific person to
Yeah.
like survive a commercial brokerage.
Need thick skin for sure. Man, I remember when I first started, kind of going back now a little bit deeper, living in an efficiency in Hialeah with my wife. It was our little love shot.
Mm,
And I was driving a little Honda Civic going to the office. Just, I'm going to like kind of just throw things out there that kind of fanned my flame. And obviously,
mm,
brokerage, you had, the broker with a G Wagon, you had Frank with a nice Benz, And I remember the broker's like, hey, I have clients coming over. I need you to move your car out of here. Like straight up,
mm.
get your car, park it somewhere else. And those were like things that I kind of like fanned me. And I was like, okay, for sure. Like I'm not stopping. Like I'm gonna grind even harder. Someone else would have taken it offensively and been like, you know what, screw this guy, screw these people, whatever. Right. But in life, it's all about how you take things, right? Another time I remember, man, my brother recommended me to one of his friends in the aviation business, and he was in my farm area, and these guys needed to relocate. It was like 80,000 square feet. It was a big deal, right? 80,000 square foot lease for 7 years, who knows? And they needed to move because they were packed. Their lease was coming up for expiration. And my brothers and him were like friends. So it was a great introduction. But they were like kind of looking also with like someone else. And I had busted my tail, like trying to find them the spot. And I remember like rent is due, we're barely making, ends meet. And I had like exhausted all my options, like this was the deal. Like I was counting on this thing, you know what I mean? Especially when you're new, you don't
Mhm.
have any deals.
All right.
Man, I remember in the office and they're kind of like, well, you know what? We kind of have this other option. And I don't know if your option's gonna like make it or whatever. Like, you know, I looked at them and honestly, I almost broke down. I was like, and I'm like, I can't break down in front of these people. I'm like, I gotta keep straight. But the pressures of life was like so on my shoulders. It wasn't like, honestly, I almost started like weeping there. And I just kind of like, you could tell my lip was twitching a little. And like one like tear came down and he noticed it. And I kind of just like brushed it off and like, hey, all right, thank you, and I just walked out. But those are reminders that kind of hit me when you reach a certain level that kind of still fan you even to today.
Mm.
So you use that, you grab onto it and you kind of keep going, because those are
Yeah.
moments in life that help you kind of push forward through all the tough times. Well, push forward through the good times, right? Because when you're in the top and you kind of feel good, I think that's one of the scariest moments, right? Being too comfortable. You got to always have that little fear or that little uncomfortableness, like, wow, we might, deals might not happen or whatever. You know what I mean? It's it's
Right.
it's scary to be comfortable. And that's what I've always told myself. Do not get comfortable. You know? Even when I close deals, I'm still at the next day at the office, like nothing ever happened. And when I close them, sometimes I don't even tell my wife, like, because I don't want her to celebrate. I'm like, oh yeah, there's money in the account. You know what I mean? Like nothing happened.
What's this wire here?
Oh, we're just grinding away. We're just nothing happened. There's another day at the office. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I feel like that's the blessing and the curse of being an entrepreneur, right? Is like it's like that balance of survival. But it's a different type of survival, right? Cuz like you were in survival cuz it's like shit, I had to pay rent. It's like your back is against the wall whereas probably now it's a different type of back against the wall, right? And I've always learned and mentors have always told me like you want to chase bigger problems, like more money, more problems kind of thing. The bigger the check, the bigger
Yeah.
the dollar amount, the
Right.
bigger the problems, and you elevate, right? But it's
Exactly.
you had to start somewhere, and that's where a lot of people I think quit. Is like
Yeah.
that was your breaking moment. It sounds like for you where like it almost broke you because someone
Yeah.
else would have been like, I gotta go get a job. Like
Yeah.
this is too stressful. This is too much. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like maybe their journey is just a little bit different, but like because you're built different, because you have that entrepreneurial mindset, you're like, no, I'm not gonna let this like
Exactly.
deter me from, getting what I need to do. And you were able to make it happen and build your own brokerage. So like for me, I'm kind of curious, like what was that gap that you saw in the market where you were like, I need to build this. I need to build this brokerage and I want to do it this way. Because maybe you saw things were being done a certain way.
Honestly, I never wanted to build a brokerage. Honestly,
No one
I
ever
never.
does. I feel like every broker I speak with, they're like, I don't know why I did that.
Yeah, I wasn't even in my mind, honestly. I was happy being like an agent and just worrying about my deals, and I was too busy like on the next deal, and I was hunting.
Right, right.
Found myself loving. that grind, that hustle, that excitement, that rewarding feeling, the next deal, grind, calling.
Right.
For me, I just got entrapped in embracing all that. I didn't care about being a broker. It just happened by chance. My old office, um, we had this off market deal that the broker wanted me to call on to try to sell. And in that, I'm literally calling the yellow pages. In that process, I bump into a seller, which was a big property, was a pretty big deal. It was cold storage property off of 183rd in North Miami, which I'm representing till today. Um, so the gentleman's name was Bob Sofer. We ended up getting that listing for sale. We ended up selling it to who ends up being my partners fast forward. So they approached me in the middle of that transaction.
Quick pause before we keep going. Share a lot of this journey in real time over Instagram. I'm currently going through a talking series called Build 60, where I'm reshaping and rebuilding my life over the next 60 days. I believe I'm like halfway through. And I talk about building in commercial real estate, the wins, the losses, the mindset, the discipline, especially women in the industrial real estate space. You can find me at The Real Gladia. Right, back to the conversation.
He and they tell me, "Hey, um, we don't really trust what your broker says. Every time he says something, we have to second guess it." And I'm an agent. I'm like, that's the worst thing you could hear as an agent. Is like, wow,
Right.
my license under someone that is not trusted, right? That doesn't look good on you.
Right.
But he goes,
Mm-mm.
I like the way you work and I trust everything you say, like I love the way you work. Fast forward, I didn't know who these guys were. One of my good friends who works for CBRE, Devin White, tells me like, "Hey man, do you know who these guys are?" I'm like, I think they played football, but I really didn't know who they were." End up finding out they were the sons of Jim Mandich, which was a very big football player, famous here, played for the Dolphins in the undefeated team. Um, they had a big name. They worked for the Dolphins Foundation or whatnot, Michael. And he had approached me, goes, "Listen, I would love to, why don't you get your brokerage license? Why don't you become a broker and we could partner up?" And I was like, wow, like these guys seem like they have it together. They're definitely growing. This was their second property that they acquired, and they wanted to go all into cold storage. So, and that's kind of how it happened. I was about 2.5, 3 years in the business. Also, it was kind of like a very uh leap of faith.
You already built a pipeline, like, already kind of
I
closed, so
did. I
sort of
was busy. I
consistent
was busy,
deals?
but I wasn't like,
Yeah.
I wasn't like one of these brokers who are established. I was kind of starting to establish myself.
So you're getting the rhythm, right.
I was getting the rhythm. So now it was like a leap of faith where I was like, wow. So I kind of had that conversation with my old bro. He was like, no. And then I was like, I was willing to stay. I didn't want to make a move. He's like, I just want to kind of renegotiate my split. And he's like, no, you're not renegotiating. I'm like, man, I kind of brought you a lot of money this year. I think it's fair, that we at least get a little percentage more on my side. And he's like, no. So I said, okay. I was like, listen, I appreciate everything you've done for me, you know, the opportunity, everything I've learned from you, etc. And he, instead of kind of encouraging me, he discouraged me. So that was another reason why it kind of like fanned me. So now I'm like,
Yeah.
it's me against the world. You know what I mean? It's like now I really gotta go.
Right.
Like he's kind of discouraging me and saying I'm not gonna make it happen. So now I had to prove myself. So I have now these new partners, right? Who kind of trust me or believe in me. So now I was like by myself, kind of just grinding it away. And fast forward, I ended up calling one of my good friends that worked with me at Cornerstone, which is the brokerage I was at. I was like, hey,
Mhm.
I need you here with me because I can't handle this stuff. It's like there's a lot of leads and you can't do everything
Yeah.
on.
It's a good problem to have, but it's a lot. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. So then he was like my wingman, my Robin. I was like, Robin,
Right.
let's and then we kind of started picking up from there. And little by little, some agents are coming with me. And then, Smith Commercial. Smith Commercial was always around. It was more as a property management company. Uh,
Mm.
but when I was at Mandage, it was a brokerage. and then Smith was the property management. Yeah.
I love that. Like, there's that's another moment that built you. Like,
Yeah.
you have these moments, right? It's like at first it was like, "Shit, I gotta close the deal," and then it's like, "Okay, I'm a little bit more established," but you had to make a decision, and you chose discomfort. Like, going back to what you were preaching. Is that kind of a belief you operate, like, at Smith CRE that, like, most brokers maybe don't from your experience? Or, like, what is that one belief that you guys operate off of?
As far as what? One belief as far as like,
Just how you navigate, like, just how you like, the main theme of how you guys run your brokerage.
man, that's a good question. I don't think we have a main theme. I try to always lead by example. So,
Right.
even when like, I close a massive deal, I could kind of take a couple of days off. I always make it a point to kind of be here, even though I have my home office, to be here, make sure that you guys see me, and I always lead by example. Um, you know, um, we're very Bible driven, like we're
Mm,
we're kind of based on like follow God, the word of God. So I
faith.
always kind of lead with prayer, and for me, the toughest times for me was when I first started, where I kind of found that hope, that drive that helped me was prayer. You know what I mean? And when I
Mm,
prayed, like, for example, for me, the hardest thing when I first started was making a cold call. I always
right.
share it was like cold calling for me was the hardest thing. I was like, I can't fathom how these guys in the bullpen are calling people they don't know that are running businesses and like offering whatever they're offering. It took me about a month to pick up the phone because I was getting too much pressure. I was like, I have a wife at home, I have bills, I have to like do this already. It took me about a month to start picking up the phone. So when I was doing that, obviously I prayed. I was like, God, you have to kind of get this fear out of me so I can, start hitting the phones. Finally, God came through. Would literally lock myself in the conference room and just hammer out the calls. I honestly wouldn't even eat. I was like, guys, I don't have time. I got so in the zone that I was just stayed locked into the conference room.
What was that thing that helped you get over the edge? Like, was it, like, of course, it's like having that faith in God, that like that trust in Him, right? That you're gonna do it. But like, what were some steps that you did to like gain that confidence? I'm sure it's like just reps, right? Like reps, reps.
Yeah, definitely reps. Once you get the reps going, yeah, once you get your rhythm going, it's it's almost like going to the gym. I almost like describe it that
Yeah,
way.
it's a muscle you have to grow.
It's muscle, right? You have first you're like, it's too heavy. You get sore, then you got to kind of like, it gets, it's harder for you to pull the weight. But then, like after week one or week two, your body almost like wants more of it on its own.
Right.
If you don't do it, like you're like, I need to do it automatically. You know what I mean? And
Yeah, then
that's
you
one
have
of
to maintain it too, right?
you gotta
Like
maintain it.
once.
Once you do it, you gotta maintain it. So it's just that's the same. I always describe it the same way. I tell my guys, if you guys are not there yet, you need to get there. You haven't broken in yet. So you gotta get those reps in. Once you get those reps in, then your body, your mind tells you you need to do it like automatically.
I love that. As we kind of close these next few minutes, if you could sit, and you've kind of spoken from like early version George, like if you can like sit with your earlier version of yourself at the start of your CRE journey, like what would you tell him?
What would I tell the early George? Um, don't give up, don't give up. Keep going, keep pushing, stay consistent and push through, you know? Um, that's that's what I would definitely tell the younger self. It seems like I did that and I did do that. Um, there were times that I guess it got a little murky because obviously the shiny object syndrome for every broker is real. You know what I mean?
That
So
paycheck, that wire hit. Ooh,
yeah, and then you get ideas with the money and like you want to do different things, like stay focused and keep going, until it's automatic. Until things are running on its own, then you kind of look at different ventures. Because I've always been one to like money's in. All right, we gotta invest it into this, or like, and then having that discipline to like
Mm.
really focus and just stay in route, on track to brokering and to finding the next deal and building your business. I think was is definitely a pointer I would tell my younger self.
It's a very wise point to make. I've spoken to a lot of people and people that say like, you have these 500K $1 million brokers that are broke, right? But it's kind of, you're trying to buy a lifestyle when it's not, if you haven't had that money management education, financial literacy, like it doesn't matter how much money you make. That's the other thing I've learned. Like you can be making less than 100K or a million. If you don't know how to manage it, like it doesn't matter. You have to kind of get in that rhythm. Um, and then kind
1000%.
of going into like the future, like who is the next version of George Smith that like you're becoming?
The next version of me, honestly, what I've been focused on is really now thinking in a different light is I want to build this thing, this brokerage. I want to build it for my son, who's coming next.
Mm.
And now I'm like, I could easily kind of like lay back and like kind of just focus on myself and like, but I want to definitely set it up to the level where not just all the brokers know like, what we represent and where we're headed, but I'm thinking more of my son, my son now who's kind of on the way. So that's kind of the thoughts behind it.
I
Right now
love
we're
that.
10 agents, um so everyone's kind of producing, everyone's on en route. Some are younger agents, some are seasoned, but I feel like we're in a good place now.
I love that. It's that family legacy that you're looking to pass down. And that's what it's all about because time flies. Your son will be old enough, and what better way to like have your family grow up in the business, right? Like to have that option of, there's so much you can do in commercial real estate, let alone real
Exactly.
estate, right? Where they can kind of you feel comfortable passing the baton to them.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things you could do in commercial real estate, but I was gonna say something else that I completely almost forgot. Going back to the transactional, there's ups and downs in this business. Every year you're gonna have a heartbreak of a deal,
Mm.
and then I was just talking this with Tommy Gill, one of our fellow brokers, and one you're gonna have like a gift, right? Like a deal that came so easy that you're like, wow, I love this business, and like
More
that
of
deal.
those.
Yeah, and every year you're gonna have one of those. You're gonna have a heartbreak that's gonna like break your heart, you're gonna lick your wounds, it's gonna hurt, and then one you're gonna be like, wow, this is a blessing, because in our industry, you feel like you're on top of the world one day and then you're at the bottom the next. It's like this constant roller coaster, right? So that's why it's important, like you said, managing your money, knowing how to like, you know, how to handle it, because some people just make a big check and they spend it. So that's definitely, good
Especially
advice.
out here in Miami, I feel like Miami ages are different.
They're built
Yo, it's
different.
that weather, they build different, right? It's yeah, that's the idea behind the title of the podcast. But no, like one quote that always stuck with me, that I forgot who said it, but it's like never let a win get to your head and never let a loss get to your heart. And I
Oh, I
think
like
it's
that.
just at the end of the day, not letting things, like not taking things personal and just
Yeah,
knowing, hey, certain things are just out of your control. And it's a lot easier said than done. Like, if we lost a 6 7 figure commission, of course, like, that's going to bite a little bit, but it's like having that discipline to be like, what can I learn from this to apply? And I think that's where gifts come in, is like when you don't give up. Like, don't
exactly.
give up at that loss. Like, that gift
Exactly.
is just around the corner. So
Yeah.
I love that you mentioned that.
Yeah.
George, this is so dope. I appreciate you hopping on. Like, you dropped lots of gems. Before, we do hop off, and anyone listening, like drop your links. Like, where's the best place for people to find you and your brokerage?
You can check me out on my Instagram, G_Smith_CRE. Our website is literally Smith hyphen CRE for commercial real estate .com. That's pretty much it. And LinkedIn, obviously, my name, George Smith. But I appreciate you,
Hey,
Glad.
you
You've
can't
been
get as simple
great.
as that.
Yeah, it was simple.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate you. I mean, you're encouraging to me every time I look at your content. You're killing it. So I know you're gonna do great, big things. So
Appreciate
my
that,
hats
man.
out to
Well,
you for sure.
literally, I like that hat though. That hat's clean.
It's the new merch, new
Um,
merch.
yeah, I like that. Like that. Well, thanks again, George, and thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one. Like I said, that was a pretty good conversation, right? If this episode resonated with you, you heard something that you need to hear today, share it with someone you think could help. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe and follow the podcast so you don't miss future episodes. I appreciate you for being here. Catch you on the next one.